Sitting on the dance floor, no dancing on the chairs. Second line is mandatory. And welcome to Economy Hall.
Hey, Doreen!
All right, it's a little bit early, but let's give it up for Doreens Jazz New Orleans.
Hey, thanks for coming. It's always wonderful to be well received, and I just want you all to know that we really appreciate it. Now, what I'd also appreciate is because we've already had some requests, and we can't do them because, well, good news and bad news. Bad news is we can't really do any requests unless your request is something we're about to do anyway. But the good news is we'll be at the Kennedy Center in a few weeks. And so this is like a dress rehearsal for that. So you may hear something you've heard before, but there's always something to learn, right?
Yeah!
See, when we go to the Kennedy Center, we're going to teach them about the jazz funeral. Here, you already know. So, we're going to have some wonderful fun with the jazz funeral. But we're going to start out as we always do with a spiritual, and it's going to be a medley. Lord, 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 glory, glory, and I'll fly away. And as always, you know the words, you can sing them. I don't care if you're singing off key, it don't matter. Now, before we do anything, I'm going to introduce the band. On the guitar, Mr. David Hammer. On the slide trombone, Mr. Stephen Walker. On the sousaphone, my favorite band member in the whole wide world, Mr. Dr. Lawrence Henry Catches II. And on the drums, no, Doreen didn't grow and shave her head. And for those of you who think she's still a little kid, she's 20 now.
Oh my!
And you know when you're 20, you know everything about everything. I remember. On the drums, I've been knowing this man since junior high school, and we're still friends. He taught our daughter how to play the drums, Mr. Herman LeBeau Jr. And in the middle, about song 4, if you see us on the street, you know him.
Yeah!
My daughter calls him Thor.
Yeah.
Mr. Dedrick Francois sitting over there. He's gonna come and join us on the song.
There's a Wall Street.
So if you've been following us long enough, you know I could talk this whole hour away, but I will not do it. Here we go, y'all, with a nice spiritual medley. And thank y'all so very much again for all. sure been good to me. Oh, Lord, 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 sure been good to me. Thank you, Lord, 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 sure been good to me. You saved my soul from sunshine. Well, I told my mama, told my daddy, sure been good to me. Told my mama, told my daddy, sure been good to me. I told my mama, told my daddy, sure been good to me. You saved my soul from sunshine. Well, he's got working hands, he's got healing hands, he's got brilliant hands. I pick up the pieces hands, he can take away my troubles. I wash away my fears and then do I pick one hand down the law. Burdens down, glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, when I heard my burdens down, oh, burdens down, oh, burdens down, oh, when I heard my burdens down, oh, burdens down, oh, burdens down, oh, when I heard my burdens down. When this life is over, I fly away. Ain't no such thing as singing off key around. Yeah.
I'm staying asleep.
Next up, we're gonna do a tune entitled "After You Go."
City Philharmonic Tuesday. Gotcha. I wanted to go. My friends didn't want to go. Because I said
Now listen, honey, want so how can you tell me that you're going away? No, so that we must part. Don't break my aching heart. You know I worked you for many a years of your night and day. How can you leave me conscious in my tears? All listen while I sleep. Oh, after you gone, all of the crying, after you gone, there's no denying when you feel deep, when you feel sad. You miss the dearest girl that you ever had. There'll come a time, all you regret it. There'll come a time, oh, don't forget it. Someday, when you feel lonely, your heart will break like mine, and you'll want me only after you've gone, after you've gone. Just thinking of it as being in school and about to take a major test that you know all the answers to. And that's what's coming up now. Remember, dress rehearsal. Next up, we're going to do a tune entitled Just a Closer Walk with Thee. But before we do so, I did this with the symphony Tuesday.
Yeah!
It was good. Thank you. But before we do so, I'm going to explain to you a little bit about the jazz funeral here in New Orleans. Now, as you know, in New Orleans, we do everything to music, including burials. Now, in order to have a successful, top-of-the-line jazz funeral, you need a deceased. But once you get past that deceased part, you need plenty of spectators like yourselves, a brass band about the size of this one, and a bereaved family. Now, the jazz funeral officially begins when the band captain sees the casket coming out of the church or funeral home, wherever the services are being held. When he sees this, he signals the band to play what is called a dirge. Translation of dirge, a slow, tear-jerking song. And it's always a spiritual. For this, we're going to play Just a Closer Walk with Thee. Now, this is what it looks like in the middle of the street. You have the funeral director's car, the band, the hearse, the family cars, and spectators all around. And they're all gathered outside of this building, very quiet and respectful, waiting for the doors of that building to open. And when the doors open, the band stands in place and they start to play this slow dirge. And they play that song while the pallbearers bring the casket over to the hearse, load it into the hearse. And once the doors to the hearse close and everybody's in their respective places, the band starts a slow, somber march from side to side that looks like this.
Yeah!
Now, and that's the first line. And the first line is for the bereaved family to express their grief at the loss of their loved one. Now, this goes on for about 5 or 6 blocks, depending, of course, on the popularity of the deceased. See, if the deceased was a very popular person, then more spectators will turn out, and the band will elongate the procession just a little bit so that everybody can get an eye and an ear for it. But however long it is, there's a point of separation where the band splits into two, half on one side of the street, half on the other side of the street, forming sort of a gateway for the hearse and the rest of the family cars to pass through. Once the last family car passes the trumpet player, he gives off a call like this. Hey, that's not bad. But considering there's so many of you, Now I'll tell you why that wasn't quite enough. The reason that wasn't quite enough is because that hey signifies that the time for bereavement is over. And it's now time for you to rejoice because that loved one has gone on to a better place or a warmer place, depending on what kind of person they were. So when you hear that call, you can't just say, hey. When you hear that call, you gotta say, hey!
Yeah.
Because with that call, you're waking the dead. You're changing the mood from sad to happy. You're changing the situation from respectful to let's partay.
Yeah. Sing it loud.
So with that bit of information, let's try it again, shall we?
Get the church rocking.
Oh, I love y'all.
Yeah.
And with that, the funeral director, the hearse, the family cars, they go on to the cemetery. And what's left in the middle of the street is the band and the spectators. And they're very respectful, very quiet, but anxious. But before, that's when you see people dancing in the street with handkerchiefs and umbrellas, having a great time. But before we do that second line, before we start dancing and partying in the streets, we have to pay our respects to the deceased. And we do that with the first line. And in this case, it's entitled, Just a Closer Walk with Thee. So now, the first line is over. The family cars, the family cars and everybody, they're on their way to the cemetery. The band and spectators are left in the middle, ready to partake.
Yeah.
But no one wants to be the first to yell and scream in the middle of a funeral. That's why you got the trumpet player. Are y'all ready?
Yeah.
Happens more than once. Here we go. Come on and do that second arm. We'll do it right on time. Let's do that second arm. We're gonna shake our bodies all night long. We'll do that second arm. Come on and do that second arm. We'll do it right on time. Let's do that second arm. We're gonna shake our bodies all night long. All right, I gotta stop everything right quick because I gotta tell you something. Now remember when I said there's a point of separation where everybody splits and then they go and bury somebody somewhere else. But that's now. But back in the 1800s, most of the people who died in the city were buried in the city. You know, we got these famous cemeteries everybody visits anyway, right? So the point of separation was at the gravesite. So what would happen is the band would play that slow dirge until the block of the cemetery. Then the music would stop and they would file in to the cemetery. The reason they wouldn't play after the block of the cemetery is because it was considered disrespectful to make noise in the cemetery. So even though it was a religious service and a religious song, no go. So the music would stop and everybody would file in to the cemetery. There'd be a minister waiting at the gravesite and he'd start a short sermon. And it better be short. So they'd gather around the gravesite and he'd start his sermon. He ended with ashes to ashes and dust to dust. And they'd lower that casket into the ground. And as they were lowering that casket into the ground, they would release doves in the air to symbolize that even though that flesh, that body is going into the ground, the soul, the spirit of that person is rising into the heavens. Isn't that cool? I thought so too. Well, the Depression happened. And doves, they got really expensive. And when you ain't had no meat, they were pretty tasty too. So they replaced the doves with handkerchiefs. And that's why you see people waving handkerchiefs in the air. Alright? So if you got something that resembles a dove, I want to see it in the air. And we about to do this. Now, if you do those hays really well, because this time they're going to happen more than twice, I'll give you something really special at the end. Are y'all ready? Here we go. We're gonna shake our bodies all night long. Well, wake your ducks in the air, wave them like you don't care. Yeah, second line, we're gonna do the second line. Now here comes a call, I hope you're ready to go. Y'all are the bomb. Oh my goodness gracious. That was so awesome. I mean, you know when you're home, right? Thank y'all for your thank you too. It's serious, man. I mean, I could stand up here all day, you know, playing, without y'all. And I realized that during COVID, right? You know, because I had to practice in a room by myself. And it was driving me crazy. I mean, y'all don't know it, but you're responsible in a big way for the music that comes back to you off of the stage. You are. You really are. And we appreciate it. Now next up, we got the changing of the guards. We got Mr. Derek Francois about to join us on the drum. And he's gonna play a tune entitled Sweet Georgia Brown.
Home, sweet Georgia Brown. Two left feet from home, so lean on. Sweet Georgia Brown. The outside, for a die for sweet Georgia Brown. I'll tell you why. Hard march. This concession on some dead way. She lays in town. Since she came on, it's a shame how she fools around. All the fellas that she can't get, all the fellas that she ain't met. Well, Georgia Finger and also Linda, sweet Georgia Brown. Mr. David Francois, y'all. Now, if I had been taking requests, this next song would have been one of those, or four of those, anyway. This one is House of the Rising Sun. There is an house beneath all the rain. They all rise in his house. It's been around all the rain of the heart. And now all I know, all my love, she was a tailor. She sold my beauty. My love was a gambling man in a house beneath all the only thing about the name is his suitcase on his shoulder. On the only time he's satisfied is when he's on the drum. sweet little sound. Also, the world's long hate. I once was lost, but now I found was blind, but now I see. around. All the new morning, all the spending morning in misery and pain, and eyes over rising sun. Now, I'm being told that we were told about 10 minutes ago. So, that means we gotta skip to When the Saints Go Marching In. And if you know us, you know we never do this by ourselves. So I'll say really quickly, we'll do a little education. I'll say, oh, when the Saints, you say, oh, when the Saints. I say, go marching in, y'all say, go marching in. And then we all sing together, oh, when the Saints go marching in. And then, instead of saying, oh, well, I want to be in that number, you say, oh, Saints go marching in. You got it? All right, very quickly, here we go. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, well, Saints go marching in. I think about me. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, well. Part two, Mama don't want. I say, what Mama don't want? You say, no, no, no. I say, why she don't want it? You say, yeah, yeah, yeah. I say, she don't want to get. You say, no, no, no. You got it? All right, here we go, y'all. Really quickly. Well, now, Mama don't want no trouble in her head.
No, no, no.
Mama stands this slide and hurts her head. Well, he don't care what Mama say. No slide that trouble anywhere. Mama don't want no trouble in her head. This is Stephen Ross, make it look so easy, y'all. Mama don't want no big trouble in her head. Mama says that's true and hurts her head. He don't care what Mama say, what's wrong that you talk anywhere. Mama don't want no big trouble in her head. It's the baby hand on the guitar, y'all. Well, Mama don't want no singers playing around here. Mama says those Lord don't hurt her head. Well, he respects what Mama say, but do gotta play out someday. Mama don't want no singers playing around here. Dr. Lawrence introduces the second on the Ceremonial. Well, Mama don't want no trouble playing around you had better play. Well, I'm gonna press down what they say. I was gonna play the thing anyway. It's more capable as it is. At least I can do. I'm getting a little older. One more time, y'all. Oh, when the saints, oh, my sin. Oh, when the saints, oh, well, I love y'all. Thank y'all very much.
Doreens Jazz New Orleans. Give it up for them. Oh, come on now. Show some love.